What's up, everybody? It's your boys Gin and Juice back at it again. And today we're bringing you another episode of our beautiful podcast talking about some more potential issues in the hobby. We're going to start off by talking about the CGC test Pokemon card issue. We'll get into that here in a little bit. The second part of this, we'll talk about obviously my Birds winning the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the offseason of sports cards and what you're doing right now. This is technically the offseason. You got baseball starting back up. Football's done. Basketball's in play right now, but basketball's a little bit rocky. We'll get into it, though. But first, let's go ahead and jump right into talking about this whole Pokemon test card piece. Jin, go ahead and for those of you that are out there that don't know, give us a little rundown of what happened.
Yeah, so I guess back in the day, there was like a test print, like Pokemon cards made, I guess, kind of like your alpha, beta, kind of like, hey, let's take a look at the play test ones. I think Magic, we've seen some Magic play test cards before. So these were kind of like the Pokemon version. And, the creator said he wasn't going to sell it, but ran into some health issues. So he decided to make them public and sell them to people in the community, I guess, for collecting. And CGC, along with him, graded and authenticated these cards, and they were put into CGC slabs, sold, over the years. And then now it's come to light that maybe some of those test print cards were actually printed in 2024, according to like metadata, that there was a whole deep dive into it on like how the metadata on the printing, the pattern indicated that it was when it was printed, and it was printed in 2024. So now CGC is in this big predicament where there was lots of people. You've seen Rusty talk about it. He spent, I think maybe like $60,000 to $80,000 on 2 test print cards, like 60 for one and 20 for the other. And now if those are coming into question whether they are authentic, and if they're not, then like who bears the responsibility?
Yeah, so just hearing that and seeing it break out was just crazy to see. Right off the bat, I'll take a stance, and if we're going to jump in and talk about who's responsible, I 100% believe CGC is solely responsible for this.
Of course.
Obviously, you have the individual that faked it and got these graded. However, this is why people grade cards. This is why, like for instance, PSA, they have like, they're backing the value of the cards when they put the value on these cards. Now, whether or not, I don't know the details of how that they go about process of something like this, but I would expect that CGC backs the value of their cards. Well, if they're backing the value of the cards and you're grading them, this is a prime example where that backing, like an insurance, comes into play. Well, like, hey, you said that this card was authentic. Now, granted, I get it. Secondary markets always change. They ebb and flow all the time, and you can't guarantee second market price. But CGC needs to figure out a way to recoup a lot of these individuals, because knowing when they graded these cards, they put them in the database, and they did all this more in the recent years. It wasn't like CGC did this way back in 2017 and all this is coming to light now. All this has been relatively recent. And if you are grading these cards and you're saying that these are authentic, these are this and that, you still are putting a value on those cards when you're grading them. And we all know within the community behind, I guess, the public eye, it's not really like there's nothing crazy going on, but behind the public eye, how involved CGC has been. Every time you go to card shows, the national, they have really put a TCG team together. They have pushed, they have reached out to influencers. They have done a lot to really push their TCG piece forward. And you know that they understand the value of these Pokemon cards, or these test cards. And, the story behind them, how the original test card was created and passed around, it makes it feel like a lot of this story was, I don't know if it's fabricated or not, because it's hard to even believe it anymore. But that story helped get these cards to be verified by CGC and actually put in their system.
And we don't really know at this point, like if where the authentic cards were, and then where the fakes started to come in, which is
Right.
another big thing that has to be delved in. And I think with CGC's response, I'm not sure it's been the best. Where I think you have a time period to submit the cards, and then they'll determine whether it's real or fake. And if it turns out to be fake, then apparently you get some kind of compensation. But how they valued such a niche item that doesn't have a lot of sales data. A lot of it's sold privately. Of course, there have been some on auction websites, but therein comes the questions like, what is the value of it? Is it the value you paid for it, or it's the value that they determine the value to be? And I don't know if that's going to ultimately hurt CGC and to the point where they can't recover from it, or if this is just going to be a big hiccup, but then eventually with enough time will they recover?
So we talked about, it's funny that this is now a subject because like episode 2 we talked about grading companies. I believe it was episode 2, and it was like who's the top dog and who's not. And I went out on a limb and I said in that episode that it's PSA, SGC, and Beckett. And I said CGC, I hate CGC. I wasn't a huge fan, but they've been around. They are a player, especially in the TCG world. They have been. This, in my opinion, this is very eye-opening. I think it hurts them a lot more than what people realize. I think the common individual is never going to use them after this, especially as this becomes more well known. I do think they took a huge hit because the problem is not only do they do Pokemon cards, they are actually really good with comic books and things like that. And there's been some issues with comic books in the past, and I would say aren't they the number one authenticator for comic books?
Yeah, I believe so.
So, I mean, they've been in the hobby for a long time, and with a lot of the issues that they're having, I mean, now it comes to the question, their ability to grade other items. Like, are they, do they have this issue everywhere else? Is it the same process? How was this overlooked? They need to really go back through the entire piece, revamp their transparency and how they take accountability, go through that, and really start from the ground up and see.
I think what really made it believable, or I don't know, like let's say like gave it a lot of credit, was because the originals were maybe brought in by the original creator, and I think that kind of put the precedence of like, hey, he's the legit guy for Pokemon. If he's bringing this in, it has to be like legit. And so I think that kind of gave it some providence to say like, okay, these are legit. And then people start to realize, oh, well, if I can print these and make copies and sell them and make big bucks, and the CGC may not question the cards that come in just because it's already been established to be authentic, then it's kind of an easy way for people to kind of make money.
Did they, by chance, share what the authentic one looks like versus what a fake one looks like? Has there been any?
I'm not sure if there's. I know people have had pictures of like really zoomed in, like like I don't know. They did some like CSI stuff and found like the metadata, like all the little dots and stuff, and how it made it that the metadata proved that it was from 2024. And I think they've done some from the original 1996. But the hard part is to determine really, like aside from that deep analysis, I don't think there's a real easy way to tell. Now, a lot of people have said that because a lot of the more recent ones have been like, like higher grades than the ones in the past. Because I think the ones in the past were like 7.5, 7s and stuff like that, which would make more sense for maybe something that started early. You're not going to get like perfect 10s. You're not going to get 10s or 9s.
Right. If they're test cards they were played with, for sure.
Yeah. Or, miscut and, they were just kind of just haphazardly done just to see. But, it comes into question when did that start? And I think all those high grades kind of brought a lot of suspicion into the hobby, which now I kind of understand why grading companies don't want to venture into areas where things are very questionable, just because, like you said, your reputation and all of your, you know, credit is behind the products that you put out and you encapsulate. And so if you accidentally grade something or encapsulate something that's inauthentic, then it can really damage your credibility.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to know how many they actually grade, like they graded that were fake. Like, it's because like them being test cards, I feel like there's not a lot of them. So
Right.
like you're gonna have a handful of the authentics, but I mean, like there's like, are we talking about like 10 cards, or are we talking about, is there like 30 or 40 of these things?
Maybe somewhere around there could be, 30, 40, who knows? I haven't looked at the pop reports, but that would be interesting to see. And
Yeah.
then, now it comes down to like responsibility. Obviously at the top, CGC, they graded them. They should be responsible. But then, we've seen people like Z&G come out right away and say like, hey, we're going to refund everybody who purchased any of these playtest cards from us, gave them full refunds and allowed them to ship those back to them, making the responsibility of getting that money back and all of that on Z&G and not the individual buyers. And I think some of the bigger ones like Golden and Heritage might have also done the same. I remember hearing some of the bigger auction houses doing it, but it makes me kind of wonder, like, do they have any responsibility in it? Because they're just a platform or a middleman selling the cards without necessarily knowing that they are fake.
Yeah, like it's tough. I just want to take a moment though to shout out to Z&G Emporium. I've both you and I have known him for a very long time. I've personally talked to him long ago before Pokemon blew up. Like we had a relationship with him. We used to buy packs from him.
Well, you guys are Arizona boys.
Yeah, he's from Arizona. First and foremost, shout out to him and what he's doing and what he did with his customers. Because you're right, it's kind of tough. Like, as a business, a normal individual probably would be like, "Hey, this is not. I didn't know this."
Yeah.
But a small operation like him to be the first one to come out and say, "Hey, I'm refunding tens of thousands of dollars to these customers that purchase these cards because we don't know," even before he got the money back from the original seller of the cards. So like basically, for those of you that don't know, Z&G Emporium is a middleman seller, consignment service. Yeah, basically selling Pokemon cards on their eBay account. It's just him and his wife, a small family, that are doing all this, and they have a fantastic operation. And he basically said, you know what, I just sold a handful of these cards. I'm going to refund all the buyers back once I get the card back, the full amount, even before he talked to the sellers. So we don't even know if he even gotten the money. I think he even made the video where like he's reached out to one of the sellers multiple times and hasn't even got back to him yet. Which goes to show that even I maybe that seller knew they were fake, or maybe that seller didn't know they were fake, but they're in a position where they don't want to give up the money. So now Z&G took a hit to their small business to get this figured out. And these bigger companies, like you said, I think you said Golden or Heritage might have done something similar. If they haven't, I hope they did.
Well, I think I remember hearing some of the bigger auction houses, like two of them did step up and kind of like follow in Z&G's footsteps, as he was the first to really come forward and say that he was going to just refund everybody, take the cards back, and try to reach out to the seller, which again, I think he's had some issues there in his video. He talks about it if you guys want to see the whole full story there.
Yeah, I'll link it in the description below when this video is live, so you can check out Z&G. And another shout out to him. If you guys want to sell Pokemon cards and you don't have an eBay account, I'm going to do a shameless plug for him right now. I guess it's not really shameless. It's just a good plug, right? Like he deserves it. He deserves it. Him and his family are awesome. I have no idea if they're going to recoup any of these losses. So whatever we could do to help promote his business, if you guys are looking to sell Pokemon cards, there should be no hesitation. If you guys are looking for a service to use, then his, the way he's handled this situation, you talk about customer support, that is going above and beyond. No hesitations, no questions asked. He's arguably one of the best people in the hobby, if not the best person in the hobby when it comes to selling Pokemon cards. So shout out to Z&G. Hopefully it gets figured out. And he gets, recoup some of that money back. But who knows? At this point, it could just be a massive loss for him. It's crazy, man. This whole situation is nuts.
It is. I can't believe such a situation just happened to just pop off like right now, especially with the whole, Beckett lawsuit or the guy being found guilty. I think of like money laundering or like something with Beckett too, whole issues there. And so now CGC, it's just kind of like everything's in a mess. So,
yikes. Well, before we close out this topic and move on to a different subject, let's talk a little bit real quick. I just want to touch more on the collector side of thing. As yourself, I know you might have some CGC stuff. I know you're more familiar with them than I am. From a collector, what does this mean for you? Should you be worried? Do you think it's going to hurt them? I mean, you've heard my opinion. We really didn't get yours, and I would love to hear it.
I'm going to say at this point, I would be just cautious now about. Now I know, it's just like one issue that's happened, but I would kind of wait and see personally what the CGC response is going to be, how they finish concluding the situations before I even consider maybe sending anything else to CGC to grade. Now I did send in some Marvel cards and stuff that I like to get graded, and they were kind of when they had the blue labels and everything, so it was kind of like kind of cool to have the cards matching like the comic book style grades. But I like you said, it's definitely going to hurt CGC for sure. It's going to put a lot of bad taste in people's mouths, and it may turn off new submitters to submitting with CGC just because it brings things into question like this. But I think that it's just like niche area that kind of hurts CGC in terms of like grading. They do still grade a lot of error cards. They still do a lot of unique things that other grading companies wouldn't do or have done in the past but don't do now. And so I think in the long run, I'm thinking CGC will recover because with the rest of the TCG and stuff is pretty solid. But for me, again, I just stick to PSA. I know their turnaround times are better at CGC. Pricing might be better at CGC. But, with things like this, it kind of just makes it a little bit murky for a lot of new people to buy cards and stuff like that, just because, there's a lot of questions about it. And I'm not saying that like PSA is perfect, because there's a lot of sellers now selling fake PSA slabs, or they're grading a 10, cracking it out somehow, putting a little bit not as a great condition card in its place and selling that one as a 10, and then resubmitting the 10 that they got for another 10 to kind of manipulate it. So I'm not saying that PSA is perfect or any other company is perfect, but if you go by track record, something like this is like a big hit than maybe some of the other stuff.
Understood. Yeah, no, hit the nail right there on the head. So at the end of the day, people, be cautious. Wait a little bit. Let this thing play out to see what happens. This is a big next step for CGC of how they really handle this. They've already started handling it, but you always have to give these type of things a few months to play out to see. There's a ton of money involved, ton of moving parts. You just gotta give it a wait. So yeah, definitely I agree with be cautious right now and see how it goes. All right, let's go ahead and continue on. Now, before I get to segment 2, there's like a segment 1.5 coming up next. Yeah, you thought I forgot. Ladies and gentlemen, the old man on the screen here that has less gray hair than I do, but he's older than I am. It was his birthday. Jen Collects, happy birthday. I know it was a couple days ago, last week. We really didn't get a chance to record on that day, but I told you I was going to embarrass you somehow, and I'm doing it now. So happy birthday, Jen. You're awesome. You're really old.
I am.
I appreciate you. And big kisses all around, bud. If I was there, I would give you a kiss right there on that big forehead. All right there. Just grab your head. Mwah! You know?
Thanks for the embarrassment. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. Thank God it wasn't.
No. I think that people are going to leave some good comments below. And we'll make sure we'll highlight those comments in another video upcoming. And we'll make sure this lasts a couple episodes. We got to keep it going. Jen's birthday month. All right. Now back to some other positive news. The Philadelphia Eagles ended up winning the Super Bowl, and a bunch of people, including yourself, were hitting me up all throughout the days and the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, saying, "Go, Patty Mahomes! I have money on the Chiefs. The Eagles suck." Would you care to elaborate?
Sounds about right.
But the Eagles won. Phenomenal performance. Now, this right here, though, tailors into the end of football card season. Yeah. This is when sports cards kind of hit a lull. Baseball hasn't really fully started up yet. Football just ended, and basketball ratings are tanking. The All-Star game just ended. Not a lot of people enjoyed that. It's a half a shell of what it used to be. Right now, we're in the off season of sports cards. It truly feels like, and basketball card collecting still there, but for whatever reason, the public is not fully engaged in basketball. So right now, it feels like we're kind of at a weird spot, especially with football ending, baseball's not starting up yet. It's rough. It's rough to see right now. Prices have never been lower in the recent years. For collecting sports cards. So if you're looking to buy up rookie quarterbacks, get into the baseball before the spring training starts, which is right around the corner, now's the time. You got like a small window to pick up some baseball cards. You still have a couple months to really focus on those basketball cards, but with with football cards, but with Prism Football that recently came out about a month and a half ago, we're now starting to see a lot of those cards drop like crazy. Now's the time to pick them up and hoard them right before the National. I feel like the Nationals, when these prices and these cards really take off, it's going to be crazy. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm probably going to try a little bit harder with baseball this season to understand baseball. It's not my strong suit. I have no idea anything about baseball. I know a little bit about prospecting now. I understand Topps Chrome baseball is the flagship product for the pros. Bowman Chrome for those first are really where it's at. Really basic stuff, but I might try my hand this season at getting some of those, into some of those breaks, getting some of that product, some of those cards to flip and sell.
I definitely love to watch you document your journey into baseball.
Ooh. I don't know if that's going to be as boring as watching baseball, but I could throw it in there. I could make it lively a little bit.
Yeah, sure you could.
One thing I do want to talk about, flip the gear a little bit, is now that we're getting back into the buying and selling of cars. Obviously, we're still collecting. Collecting is always going to be number one, and we've been talking about that for a while. But for those of you, I mentioned a couple episodes ago that were interested in understanding Instagram and getting that popping off. I didn't want to forget about that, and I kind of want to use this time to talk about that a little bit more about an Instagram strategies that we mentioned. Hey, we had strategies here, strategy there for holding and selling and things like that. Well, let's talk about marketing yourself and building a community of potential buyers and sellers on your own page and just using yourself. If you're an Instagrammer and you're looking to build I wouldn't say card business, but overall just put yourself in the hobby, there's a strategy, a 7-day strategy that you should focus on very closely with Instagram. Instagram is probably the number one spot I would start if I'm beginning in the card business from a collecting or selling side. And let's go through the details, because I said I would give out a strategy to individuals that were listening to the last episode. So here it is. So if you want to write this down, you can. You can always save this part of the video and come back to it. But let's go ahead and just start with your posting. There's 3 different types of avenues when it comes to Instagram. There is instant gratification and retention, which is your stories. There is organic retention growth that is going to be image post. And then there's going to be the item that makes you grow the most, which is reels. So those 3 items are the key 3 avenues on Instagram, and you have to play ball in every single one of them every single day. But the strategy is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to start on a Monday and go through a Sunday, and I'm going to give you each day what time to post, when to post it, and what type of post that you should have. So your biggest days when it comes to video retention are going to be Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So keep that in mind. So let's start with Monday. So if we know, and I know this by looking at the data, but it's going to be the same almost for everybody. Mm-hmm. So if I know Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, and Sundays are my 3 biggest days when it comes to video retention, I'm going to save those days for my reels. So what do I do on a Monday? Well, Monday, I'm going to post an image post. I'm going to post multiple images, a carousel image, some type of image. It could be carousel, it could be a standalone single post, but something of an image that shows off my collection, a picture, a couple of cards, picture of some pickups, and I want to write a description about that, describing about what that is. Sometimes it could be like, hey, this is my favorite card of the week. Just wanted to share off a piece of my collection. I got this card, yada, yada, yada. I'll show a cool little receipt that I got autographed by Steve Nash. Oh, and in the interaction with this, I basically took a few pictures and I said, hey, if this is a receipt that I got signed as a kid by Steve Nash, and it's kind of funny because I flipped the receipt over and I saw the price of a hot dog was like $1, and I made I made a Instagram story about that situation that night, or an Instagram post, apologies, about that situation in that night. And it was really engaging. It got a lot of comments, got a lot of likes, but that was an organic post. Those images and organic posts is, if you notice, even on your own Instagram reel or Instagram feed, as you're scrolling through, those image posts are going to always be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 days out of you seeing other people's images, because that's what Instagram makes sure it constantly pops up in your feed for retention. It allows your followers to stay engaged and involved with you outside of seeing something different. It's a completely other different feed that your followers see outside of your videos. So putting engaging content like that always helps out. So that would be my Monday post. My Tuesday post is with us and opening up wax. It's either opening up something or doing some type of quirky, goofy thing when it comes to opening up product. And that would be my Tuesday post. It would be a reel that's about up to 1 minute and 30 seconds long. You're going to put a nice little description talking about that, but it's going to be a smaller. It doesn't have to be a novel. It doesn't have to be super detailed. It's a very smaller clip, and you want to make sure that your hashtags are in there. Now, I highly recommend that you hit enter a few times and kind of make your hashtags a little bit of gap. I know on iPhones you can't really hit enter. It's more on Androids, but you're going to find a way to just add a couple hashtags. You don't want no more than 5, no less than 3. Like that 3 to 5 hashtags. You don't need 90 of them. Sometimes I see people post like massive, like just a paragraph of hashtags.
Well, it's kind of changed, right? Because before, I know it's like we used to post a lot of hashtags. Maybe we put like one or two in the main post, and then we put like a big body into a comment post. But that's definitely changed over the years.
Yeah, it drastically changed. The algorithm is not no longer the same. That's one thing about Instagram, and you kind of bring up a good point. That's another thing that you have to be very up to date with what's going on. So if you're going to start using this platform, you want to be in the know of what Instagram does. And you can do that by simply just following Instagram and looking at the dashboard and information that they provide in the help center. Constantly keeps you updated. So Monday, we have that image post. Tuesday, we have a reel. Wednesday, we're going to have another image post. Thursday, we're going to have another reel. Friday is one of the worst days ever to post on any social media platform, because when people get off work, they're not really on social media. They're getting ready to go out on the town. It's the end of the work week. Even kids coming out of school, high school, college. It's the end of the school
Party!
week. Everybody is not on their phone. So I wouldn't say I would post your best item on a Friday, but I would make sure you're still posting something on a Friday. Then Saturday and Sunday are definitely huge reel days. So again, video content up to a minute and 30 seconds. I would also potentially look at posting an image post on those days as well. Maybe not both, maybe one, but figure that particular piece out and do maybe on Saturday, do 2 posts instead of 1. But your primary all these days, so basically from Monday to Saturday, Monday's going to be image, Tuesday video, Wednesday image, Thursday video, Friday image, Saturday image video, Sunday video. That is the layout. Now, when do you post? Well, you want to be consistent. You want to make sure you post all this content within a 2 to 3 hour gap of the same time every single day. So ideally, you're going to see that your Instagram audience, for me, for example, is anywhere between noon PST to 3 o'clock PST. Now that I'm on West Coast time, that's what it is. But typically on East Coast time, it's between 3 and 6.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is the primary time for me. So every single day, I am consistent about posting these items on that time frame. Now, the only day that it would change would be the day that I add 2 posts into it. So like, for instance, on Saturday, if that's my day for a double post, I would put my image closer to the 10 a.m. Pacific time, and then my video 2 to 3 hours later. So that's the exact time you need to be posting. So now I've given you what you should be doing at every single day. I've given you the exact time that you should be posting every single day. Now, that's just for image posts and reels. That is not anything to do with stories. Stories are the instant retention, the instant gratification. You need to post anywhere from 5 to 7 stories every single day between the same exact time. Now, these stories last for 24 hours. So if you post between that 3 hour period of every other time you post, the individual's a creature or habit. Majority of the people that watch your stuff are going to come up on those times. Like, for instance, Jen and I are not up I might be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but we're not up super late looking at Instagram or super early in the morning. It's always around the same time throughout the day that we're looking at this. So you want to post your stories 5 to 7 of them a day around that same time. And when you do that, they're going to last full 24 hours. So if you're doing that every day, you're going to have a story active on someone's story carousel that's at the top for an entire 24 hours. You won't miss a lapse. So you're going to get people viewing your stories. You want people to engage with your profile, to stay within the Instagram algorithm, to stay within that. So each little section plays a unique role. Image posts, they play a role of making sure that, hey, this is long-term retention. This is how I get a lot of good conversation, a lot of good engagement. Videos is what Instagram is pushing right now. It's going to go out to new followers. I'm going to get new followers based on these reels. And then the stories keeps everybody engaged in your profile 24/7. If you follow this basic strategy, within 30 to 45 days, you're going to see massive growth on your channel from 0 to probably close to 1,000 subscribers or followers. So you could, if you do this, you could grow pretty quickly. Now, sometimes some of your content's not going to slap. Other times it will. You just got to keep doing it. Don't worry about the views. Don't worry about the followers. As long as you stay consistent with what I'm telling you and keep it as simple as possible, you will grow. Don't overthink it. Don't overplay it. Make sure you do that. So anybody who wants to start a TCG page, a sports card page on Instagram, or get into this hobby, that's the first place I would start. And that's the first thing I would do.
And don't feel so overwhelmed by saying like, oh my God, I have to do 5 to 7 stories every day and make all of the posts. I think the best place to start would be follow your 7-day posting schedule with your images and your reels, and then slowly work into getting those stories up to that kind of daily number of 5 to 7 stories a day, because it could seem overwhelming at first to try to figure out like, how am I going to make enough content to post, make those reels, and post like 5 to 7 stories a day. So I think a good starting point is just stick with your 7-day schedule, build that up, and then slowly get into adding more of the story piece.
Yeah, the story piece, you're definitely right about that, but don't overthink the story piece. A share could be just sharing someone else's content. It doesn't necessarily have to be your own. Yeah, it could be just going to someone you follow and sharing their content. It could be as simple as just like treating it like Twitter, where they're like, "Are you guys really watching this game right now? I can't believe LeBron did a 360 dunk." Just something crazy. You could even ask questions to your follower. Hey, what's everybody's favorite pack to open? Leave the answer below. There's many different ways for you to interact with stories. A lot of people tend to think stories have to be like a video or like an image of something. You're already doing that. They allow you to do so much. They allow you to do polls. They allow you to do whatever you can within stories. So I would make it like a link off to your business, off to your website. As long as the story's there, it's okay. It doesn't really matter what it is. The whole purpose of that is to be active.
Page.
Right. So
makes sense.
I want somebody in the comments to say that they're going to do that and follow that, and I want them to report back to us and see how much they've grown.
30 days later,
Yeah. But all right, everybody, there we go. We went ahead and we talked about the CGC Pokemon test card piece, which is absolutely crazy. Hopefully we figure out more from there, and once we do, we'll keep you guys up to date on that. We kind of mentioned about the off season, the buying and selling for sports cards. We also mentioned some community growth, so make sure you guys check out the Discord. We did mention that it was Andrew's birthday, so happy birthday to Andrew.
Oh, you can't just let that.
and I gifted everybody a Instagram strategy because it was your birthday. So there we go.
Okay, nice.
There we go. There it is.
You're welcome, everybody.
But there we go. Jen, as always, thank you so much for jumping on and knocking this out with me. It's always a pleasure, man.
I'm surprised we barely talked about your Eagles. Like I think you would set up your podium and give like a 40-minute speech on like how the Eagles are the greatest team ever. And,
I gotta stay humble. We're gonna build a dynasty over here, man. The early 2000 Patriots are about to be reincarnated in the Philadelphia Eagles. Winning.
You don't think Mahomes is going to come back with a vengeance next season?
I mean, he's going to come back. I think he's always going to be in the run, but that team's going to look drastically different. They are way above the salary cap. Travis Kelce is a big question mark. I mean, the good thing is they got really good wide receivers. They got Xavier Worthy, who looked amazing that Super Bowl. They got Rasheed Weiss coming back from injury, Pachenko coming back from injury 100%. So when they're fully healthy, I mean, they're still going to be an offensive juggernaut, but Travis Kelce's more than likely going to be gone. That defense is probably going to look a little bit different. They're probably going to lose one of their offensive linemen. So, I mean, I think they're always going to be back, but there was, I'll say this and then we'll take off, but there was a TikTok video that showed that the Chiefs were 8 plays away from being 15-1, which they finished the record. That was the record for the season, to 8-8.
Wow.
That's how lucky they got in a lot of these games. So they did not look good all year. Their record, even though they were 15-1, they got extremely lucky. And I know there's going to be a lot of people, oh, you're just saying that because you're a Birds fan. I mean,
Right.
It's this Chiefs team was not a 15-1 team. I'm sorry.
So this victory for the Eagles and the loss for the Chiefs, how do you think this is going to affect card values of, like, let's say Mahomes, and then let's say your Jalen Hurts? Like, are we going to see, Mahomes has one bad game. Obviously, it's the Super Bowl. It's the big game of all. Everybody, eyes are on there. Is that going to really like hurt his card value, and we're going to see like a big drop? Or because Jalen Hurts won so decisively, are we going to see his values just skyrocket up?
So I will say this: I don't think you're going to see Patrick Mahomes stuff drop too bad. I mean, it's still Patrick Mahomes. He's still on pace to be as good as Brady, or if not better. Which is crazy to see 2 great quarterbacks in our lifetime if that comes out to play. I think Mahomes stuff doesn't really drop unless he has the same exact, unless something catastrophic happens over the next like 4 or 5 years where he just doesn't make the playoffs anymore. He just starts to suck. I think that's when you start seeing his stuff drop, but I don't think this hurts his value at all. I think this helps Jalen Hurts' value tremendously, but you're still going to have those haters because people are still not giving him a ton of credit, even though the 2 Super Bowls that he's been in is against Patrick Mahomes. He has outperformed Patrick Mahomes based on stats. A lot of times, I mean, people now are saying like he's only as good as his offensive line and their defense, which they're not wrong. It's just a shame that
he's not getting as much credit as he deserves.
Right. I mean, you could say the same thing about everybody everywhere. Like, hey, Mahomes won a couple Super Bowls because his defense bailed him out. Like, he didn't ball out in the other Eagles Super Bowl. And it's just like, everybody has items that help them out to win. It's just when it comes, for whatever reason, when it comes to Jalen Hurts, they point all those out over giving the man some credit. And he looked phenomenal. He was controlling that offense. He looked like a field general that we all thought and know he is. I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow, but I'm definitely saying he's a damn good quarterback, and he is easily in my top 5 right now. I know I'm a little biased, but hopefully he's in everybody else's top 10 as a quarterback right now. So
if you were to say, like, let's say I'm a new investor, I kind of want to maybe, because I feel confident that Jalen Hurts will be a good quarterback, like 5-10 years down the line. When do you see me wanting to pick up a Jalen Hurts card? Let's say like a PSA graded, maybe a 10. Would you say, obviously now is probably not the best time to pick it up, but would you say closer to the start of the season or a little bit into the season? Because I know a lot of people have that, like, they like wait for the first couple of games to see how they're going to play. They play kind of poopy, and then it's like, okay, his season's over. Like, I'm just going to dump his card. Or is that a good time to be like, oh, hey, let me find some deals, or before the season?
Yeah, I think for him, his stuff right now is at an all-time high. Like, it's crazy. I get people DMing me, hey, you want to buy my Jalen Hurts? I'm like, the only reason you're selling it to me now is because he just won a Super Bowl and you want top dollar. I'm not paying a premium. You should, if you're collecting cards, this is the quickest lesson you should learn as a sports card collector. If you are collecting cards and your team has just done something amazing, won a championship, or the player has broken the home run record or something like that, you do not buy any of their cards right after that happened.
Right.
That's when their cards are going to be at all-time highs, plain and simple. For Jalen Hurts, if you feel like you might have missed out on Jalen Hurts because his stuff was at the bottom compared to any other quarterback in the 2020 draft, if you want any of his stuff, I would probably wait to middle of next season. Even if they're playing well, his stuff will still slide down because someone will say something on TV where they still don't believe in him.
Or he'll have a few bad games.
Yeah, I would wait till probably the season time to get him. I would not get him right now or this offseason because he's going to be one of the hottest quarterbacks to get right now. His stuff is already up a tremendous amount of money. You might want to look around at the beginning of the season because maybe it'll cool off and the other hype of other quarterbacks have gone up. But I would definitely not get any of your favorite players that you're collecting right after they do something amazing. For Jalen Hurts, it's probably going to be around those time frames.
Gotcha. Well, there you go, guys. If you want to pick up some, Eagles cards, I guess that's the good time to pick them up. Go Eagles!
Go Eagles! All right, everybody. Well, there you go, Jen. Again, I appreciate you coming out, buddy. Happy birthday. And tell everybody else, we'll talk to you soon. Deuces!
Ding dong, they just think they are. Another little wannabe gangster trying to play hard. Ding dong, they just think they are. Another little wannabe gangster trying to play hard.